Greetings. Greetings. Okay. Apologies for the delay, folks. I really thought I could make this 5:30, but it didn't work. So it is now 5:49. Let's begin. We have one agenda item, I believe. And we also, this is a prep meeting for the 6:30.
No, it's not. No, it's not a prep meeting. We will join Ken on the other link.
Okay. All right. So I think we can dispense with the formalities of, we're not approving minutes, I don't believe.
No, we have one agenda item.
Well, it looks like we do have a guest, welcome guest, two guests. Yes, two guests. Do you
Sarah,
folks?
Yeah, Sarah too, so.
Right. Sarah, you count as a guest, even though we know you're here from a PB perspective. So we'll call you a third guest. Do our guests have any issues they wish to raise as, input from the community before we begin? Yes, yep. Ms. Palmer.
Hi there. So I am coming into this meeting, and I can just give, if you wish now, a brief report of what happened at the Open Space Committee meeting last evening when we debated, I believe, the same topic that you are debating. So if that's what you want, Mr. Chairperson, I can do that. And that would be from Open Space Committee, just a report, and then from myself, some comments. So shall I proceed?
I think that's a good idea. It gives us a little perspective, but I just want to make sure any of our other guests don't have any different agenda items they wish to present this evening.
Would you like, do you know the names of the other guests, Jim?
I do not know who iPad 3 is.
Ryan Gielaher, 75 Russellville Road.
Ryan, I thought that was you, but I wasn't going to assume. Appreciate it. All right. Do you have anything for us, Ryan, outside of the agenda item today, which is the piece that we're going to be talking about?
No, I'm just here for myself.
Cool. Well, all right. Much appreciate your attendance and interest. So without objections, I think it's Cindy's proposal is a good one. That should give us a sense of what happened last night that will inform our thoughts and, I think, decisions tonight. So please, Cindy, proceed.
Okay, it'll be really brief. Last night, the Open Space Committee met, and quite frankly, all the same faces that are on this meeting, plus a few additional from the Open Space Committee, were present. And ultimately, there was a motion, and it was to recommend waiving the right of first refusal and it was a unanimous vote. And we know that the select board ultimately will be making the decision, but we had two sort of parts of that. And one was to encourage as much as possible use of open space with any kind of a development within this particular piece of property. And the second, which we can't make it happen, but we encourage it. And the second part was to defer a decision to the Housing Committee. So that's the outcome. And I have spoken to Chris Fowles today, and she said I should send an email to town administrator and copy her, which I will, with that outcome. So that's one thing. And secondly, I was just going to say that I've been thinking about this as me, Cindy Palmer, and it's ultimately your decision, but I did make the point a little bit before you got here, Jim, that if the other proposed project, which is on College Highway across from what is now the Cumberland Farms, for some reason doesn't get the money out of the CPC fund, which is designated for affordable housing, and still does the number of housing units that appear to be a part of their plan. Remember, the inclusionary bylaw does require 10%. I know you all know that, but I just wanted to make that statement. So it's not like you never get any affordable housing unless it's a tremendously scaled down project from that. And then the other thing was what came up last night which was important to consider, was the location of this current property that we're talking about on East Street being, greater than a mile out of sort of the old center of town, if we're still calling it that, the town hall, the fire station, the library, et cetera. No sidewalk at the present time, maybe in the future. And then also no public transportation. Those are important considerations, but I think that sort of assumes that somebody that was on affordable housing wouldn't be doing what the rest of us are doing, which is greater than a mile for the most of us outside of the center of town, which is we're driving our cars and we're bicycling maybe if we wish to go to the center of town. So I just kind of keep that in mind, that to me, that wasn't a super strong argument. Just me as I contemplated this. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Appreciate that summary, Cindy. Okay, just want to disclose that I was asked whether I wanted to share my pronouns, and so I did, but apparently the boards and committees pronouns doesn't necessarily match mine, so I just want to be clear about that. All right, so let's have some discussion about the piece of land. Again, in summary, if I'm not mistaken, it sounds like open space, I don't know, Concom,
And planning board.
and planning board all consistently recommended waiving the right of first refusal. So, it comes down seemingly to the housing authority. And maybe before we start, I don't know, Sarah, if you want to give a PB perspective on their waiver of right of first refusal.
Cindy could chime in on this as well, but the planning board doesn't really have any particular interest in it other than to make sure other boards have a chance to take a look. We didn't have anything really of note to add, I suppose, is where we stood on that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
The only thing I could chime in on was to say the planning board also said, put it over to open space and housing, yes. Which is the same as chiming in, so.
Yeah. So the current price tag or the offering on this piece is a rather substantial sum. And it looks like the only ones left standing are housing. So let's have some discussion about that. Janet, you have an observation or question?
Yeah, I have. Well, Sarah and I met with Paul Lachetti yesterday morning at the location, at the property, and kind of walked the property a little bit. Paul is from Hilltown Community Development Corp, CDC, and we had some, and I certainly would want Sarah's thoughts as well. I think his best case scenario was that we probably need 5 or 6 acres to build affordable housing, not 20. And that ideally, and again, Sarah, if you got a different take on it, please feel free to share, was that it'd be great if we could somehow split the cost with open space to defer some of the very steep price tag. But with the vote that occurred last night, that apparently is no longer an option. So, he had mixed feelings about the price tag, and he's not the decision maker by any means. And if we wanted to move ahead, one of the things that Hilltown CDC would do is if we purchased the property and we chose to go in this direction, that they could actually build rental facilities there and a parking lot, and that would be, we would hold the lease on the land, and then that would that's their business model for one business model. So so that would take.
But that would be rental, not owner occupied.
Yeah, but I don't think there's a huge difference from what I understand. I mean, I think that's what they've done in Goshen and what they've done in Easthampton, for some of their affordable housing. So, I think that we shouldn't poo-poo that as an option, that way we're not, we just hold the lease on the land. Also, Jim, I just wanted to mention, I don't know did you get Ed's email about the 70%?
Yes.
Okay, because he called me today in case he's still not sure that you're getting his email, so he wanted to make sure. So maybe that's something else that maybe you want to just share as well. But Sierra, do you have anything that you would add from our meeting with Jeff and Paul?
Not really. Basically, their point was if we wanted to do it, it is feasible. They could make it where we could get enough units on there, but it would make more sense to do something like make a contingent offer and then do like all sorts of tests on the property and stuff, which is something we don't have time for. But yeah, my thought initially and still is that unless we were going to split the cost with open space, I didn't think it was worth it for us to drain our entire CPA bank account on this property. And it sounds like that's not going to happen. So that's how I feel about that.
Remember, the decision is with the select board.
Understood.
Yeah, so I wouldn't say it's dead, the idea of sharing the costs. Just let me point that out.
Yeah, I was going to say what Cindy said. I think if Housing Authority made the vote to exercise the right, I think Select Board would then have to discuss what that would look like if the town did exercise the right. And I personally would agree that like if this was a project the town moved forward with, we would need to include open space as a working group for this property. But so it's not dead, but it's just from an open space perspective, as I stated last night, I don't think it is on target for their goals.
And I certainly agree with you, Joy, and that was a great point, and that makes us, so I'm not sure that, I didn't get the sense from watching the meeting last night that open space would be able or in their best interest to financially support the open space segment of this project.
Right. So point of clarification, and maybe you can answer this for me, Joy, but this is ultimately the select board's decision. But if open space gives the feedback to the select board that says, this doesn't fit our goals and we're not interested, and the housing authority says, this is too steep a price tag for us to take it on singularly, would the select board say, is it ever in the realm of possibility for the select board to say, well, we've heard that feedback, but we think this property, we should pursue it, and we're going to take some money from open space, whether they agree or not? That's the real question.
There's always a possibility of that, but I'm pretty sure the select board members are reasonable and rational and would see, what the situation is for what it is. And especially with other opportunities that have arisen that they are aware of in regards to the project that was presented to Housing Authority the other meeting. So yes, there's always that possibility, but that seems very unlikely that would happen.
So
by the way, Jim, the Open Space Committee doesn't own the open space money or the undesignated money. That all has to go to CPC anyway, and has to go to the town meeting. So if and I'm playing through a scenario that maybe Joy can agree with or not, but if in the select board's deliberation and anything you come up with tonight, it was determined that this could be a joint product, I would see the possibility of the select board saying, you Open Space Committee recommended waiving, but you deferred to housing, and you said, would it be good to have some good recognition of utilization of open space within the project, okay? Whatever the wording is going to turn out to be. And thus, it would kind of come back to open space. It's true, we have a lot of plans going forward, the Open Space Committee, but I think there's a possible scenario there. That's my thought, unless Joy disagrees or the select board disagrees.
No, I don't disagree. I think that the Housing Authority would have to come to select board and I'm just speaking as select board generally, not me, and meet some kind of high burden that the investment in the property on East Street is going to be a better investment for the town than investing the property on College Highway. And the housing authority, if they wanted to exercise that right, would have to argue to select board why it's the better idea, the better investment. And I don't know if that is a burden that could be met, because I think that the other project is the better investment.
Yeah, I think it seems like if we wanted to make this happen, we'd have to really, really want it really badly. And it doesn't seem like it's the most ideal situation that at least I want really, really badly.
So I've been playing a little bit coy, but I agree with Sierra. I think if any board has that degree of leverage to influence another board's initial, and I know open space said no, but they said it would qualifiers, which to me is not really frankly much of a decision. Say what you want, and act on what you want. So I don't know if we can have our cake and eat it too. There's this pretty high price tag. And there seems to be an opportunity on College Highway, whereas there's a high price tag and a lot of things that have to come together to maybe get some units on East Street. So for me, minus hearing something that I'm, then missing, I don't see the value in recommending the select board, yeah, we're interested if we had some more money, and, we'd just be punting the ball, and I'm not sure why we'd be punting it.
And I do feel, I guess, that the location is not ideal, and that if we ever get public transportation, I think that it's going to be down 10, not down East Street, even though I think it is a thoroughfare from Holyoke to 10. So again, it's interesting that Hilltown normally deals directly with landowners, not with town property, which I found kind of interesting. So they kind of said that they don't normally deal with property that's been purchased through the town. So there were some unknowns based on that. So
they also said they could help us look further into the Middle Road property, which I think is something that makes me have more hope for that property, because I felt kind of stalled, like we didn't really know what to do with it. And now we have these people who are like, oh yeah, we're the ones who you talked to about that. Yeah.
Right. And in the Middle Road property, again, affordable housing doesn't necessarily have to be along transportation routes.
Right.
Think of the Habitat for Humanity duplex that's over on East Street in Easthampton. I'm not aware of a bus that runs by there, but the folks, it's owner occupied, they make it work. So you're not making a huge development. Yeah. Any other thoughts from any of our guests? Is there someone willing to make a motion?
I actually have a question.
Sure, Ryan.
So as far as the funds and being able to use, is the town able to go out and purchase, let's say, a single family lot or a single family home that is in need of repair and be able to acquire that, then put out for bid, redo the property, and then sell it in a lottery system in the affordable range? Is that something that can be done? Is it looked at?
So My understanding is the barrier to that effort in the past has always been that to spend money like that requires town meeting approval. By the time that happens, someone else always bought the property. We are endeavoring to create something called a housing trust, which will allow the purchase, as you describe, minus approval by town vote. And that's the key. You could develop a housing production plan, and you create a housing trust, which is actually in the purview of the select board, not the housing authority. And that housing trust can be utilized to make these purchases.
Okay.
don't know
And
if
on
that
that
clear-
note, can I add something?
Sure.
I think from my perspective and the need for the town to establish a housing trust and knowing that it's going to cost legal fees and whatnot for it to be established, I would rather see the CPA money go towards that if possible than blow it all on a property and then not be able to do different things other places in town. I think a housing trust is number one priority in my mind, besides, for town. We need something like that so we can do those projects. I would love to do those projects, but we can't. And we need some kind of funding to get the housing trust established, and to blow it all on a project and then not be able to establish a housing trust just seems like we just took a wrong turn somewhere.
Right. We would leverage so much money on that property on East Street that it would really, essentially really encumber any other efforts that we might be going on.
And there's a lot of unknowns with that.
Right. And it's not a sure thing. There's a lot of unknowns.
Too much of a risk. Well, I would like to move to recommend waiving the right of first refusal for that property.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any further input? Or I appreciate that question, Ryan. Are there any other additional?
I'm
Okay,
good.
we'll take a vote of Housing Authority members with a voice vote, name and vote, please.
Kane, aye.
Simmons, aye.
Sini, aye. It is unanimous.
Jim, could I add one thing that I said the other night at Open Space, and that is, Ryan, if there's any chance and to add an affordable house to your development, if that's what occurs, then please come to speak to us as a housing authority. And if we can help support that to make it affordable and profitable to you, we're open to that. And just like the Cannons came to us, please, always, we would want the builders in town to keep that in the back of their head. So.
Yes, we'd love to help you in such a way that everyone feels happy and no one feels put upon.
But point of clarification, and Ryan, please forgive me if I'm wrong, but I thought it was Mr. Gartzka who had interest in that property on East Street. No?
No, it's me.
It's you. Okay. My error. Well, I certainly echo what's been said here, Ryan. We're happy to.
Right. And just to follow up from last night, and I said that it's the project's got to be right. It's got to make sense. And this is the very, very preliminary steps of a project where this is like one of the first hurdles, because if we can't acquire the project to do any kind of the property to do any kind of project, we've gone full circle. So yes, it's something that I'll take into consideration. I will look at. Obviously, this is probably not going to be my last project in the next 35 years. There are other things that I've looked at, and I'm going to be following the project across from Cumbies, because I think it's going to need a little bit of a push and some help to make that happen. And so you'll see my face more for sure.
Good. Well, I can say personally, because I've been on the Housing Authority long enough, and it's not that long, but I remember when we had the pizza party at Paisano's, you came, you've been attending these meetings, you've been an interested party, and I think I speak on behalf of the Housing Authority and the town in thanking you and ask that you continue to show that interest. We're happy to work with you.
Absolutely.
Good.
Thank you.
All right. Do we have any other items, folks? Are we ready to do our switch?
I'm going to move that we close the meeting if we could.
Cindy's waving her hand.
Seconded.
Oh, you're saying goodbye.
So.
All right, there's a motion to close the meeting. Is there a second?
Here, second.
Okay. We'll do a voice vote again. Who's in favor?
Kane, aye.
Simmons, aye.
Sini, aye. That one's always in favor. You know.
Okay.
Oh, April just joined.
April, hi.
We have to join the other meeting with Ken. He's waiting for us, so.